They say you don't hear the bullet that ends you. I think that's true for corporate executions too. No alarms, no shouting, just the soft click of a door behind you, the cold silence of a room designed to erase you. My name is Ethan Reyes. I'm 42, or, as the new CEO called it, prehistoric in internet years. I was the senior vice president of strategic growth at a media tech company called Viraloop. You might have seen one of our ad campaigns without knowing it. We specialized in long-form brand storytelling that didn't feel like ads. Podcasts, docuseries, narrative YouTube content that actually made people stay. My team built the engine that drove over 66% of this company's entire annual revenue, which, I assumed, meant something. I was wrong. The meeting was on the 4th floor, corner office. Used to be mine before the reorg. I walked in thinking it was a quarterly performance review. Standard. My numbers were airtight. Client renewals were up. We had just closed a 7-figure deal with a legacy brand, trying to look cool again. I expected a handshake and maybe a bonus negotiation. Instead, I got Tessa Kim. She didn't look up from her iPad when I walked in, just gestured to the chair across from her, like I was interrupting something. "Let's keep this short," she said. "I have back-to-back calls." I nodded and sat, still calm, still professional, still unaware I was about to be put down like an old racehorse. "You've been here, what, 8 years?" she asked, tapping her screen. 10. "Right, a decade." She tilted her head like she was examining a cracked museum piece. "So, you've seen this company go through a lot." That's one way to put it. "You were here pre-pivot, before we leaned into community-building content, back when we were just another B2B analytics shop. And I led the initiative that turned us into what we are now." She smiled at that, tight and plastic. "You've contributed, no one's denying that. But we're entering a new era. And to be blunt, Ethan, your methods aren't scalable for the modern audience." I waited for the joke. It didn't come. "I'm sorry?" I asked, though I already wasn't. "You don't even post shorts on YouTube," she said, as if that settled the matter. Then she slid a folder across the glass desk. "Gen Z won't listen to someone who's not on their social feed." I stared at the termination papers. No warning. No performance flag, just vibes and a viral strategy deck. I could have fought back. I could have pointed to my team's contribution to last quarter's record profit. I could have mentioned the ongoing multi-year contracts I personally negotiated that would outlive her tenure. But I didn't. Not because I agreed, but because I saw it in her eyes. This wasn't a mistake. It was a decision. So I smiled, calm, controlled. "Thank you for your time," I said, and shook her hand. Her grip was limp, already forgotten. As I walked out, I could feel the air change. Heads turned. My name, once a foundation here, now a cautionary tale in motion. I passed Logan, one of the junior creatives I hired fresh out of college 3 years ago. He looked like he wanted to say something. His mouth opened slightly, then closed again. Another head down, another silence earned. I nodded to him anyway and stepped into the elevator, pressed the lobby button, watched the doors shut like a final curtain on a performance no one had asked for, but everyone applauded anyway. Downstairs, I walked past the glass walls of the bullpen, my bullpen, the team I built, the team that worked late nights, skipped weekends, made pitch decks from hospital beds and red-eye flights. The people who took a chance on my vision and made it real. No one met my eye. That part hurt the most. By the time I stepped out into the sunlight, the grief had settled into something quieter. Not acceptance, something colder. Like when you leave a house fire and realize the smell won't wash out of your clothes for weeks. I sat in my car, staring at the dashboard like it owed me an explanation. My phone buzzed once, twice, then went silent. I didn't check it, didn't need to see the notifications rolling in. Heard what happened. You okay? WTF just happened, man? Tessa's cleaning house. The truth is, I didn't know if I was okay. I wasn't sure what to feel. I just kept seeing that moment, her sliding the papers toward me without even looking up, like my decade of loyalty and late nights had the weight of a cheap resume printout. The engine turned over, and I just sat there with the air conditioning blowing on my face, trying to decide what came next. Maybe I'd take some time, travel, sleep, watch the world burn without me. Then my phone lit up again. A name I hadn't seen in months. Charles Henley, former board member. Quiet, dangerous, smart. The message was just 5 words. Call me. She made a mistake. It was the kind of bar that didn't care for foot traffic or hashtags. Dark wood, low jazz, and a barkeep who knew not to interrupt. The kind of place you went when you wanted to be forgotten, until someone remembered you. Charles Henley was already seated when I walked in, 2 fingers of rye waiting at my spot. He was older now, grayer, thinner, but those sharp eyes still scanned like a radar. A man who always knew what storm was coming and where to stand when it hit. You look better than I expected, he said as I sat. Getting fired does wonders for your sleep, I replied. I picked up the glass, but didn't drink. Why am I here? Charles leaned back, fingers steepled. Because I thought you'd want to know how the knife got into your back. I didn't answer, not right away. I just waited. Tessa pitched the board 6 months ago, he said. Promised a new era, viral first branding, short-form dominance. Said long-form strategy was Paleolithic. Her words. She offered something we couldn't resist. Fresh capital, investor buzz, and a complete talent refresh. So I was the dinosaur. You were the structure she had to burn down to make her story look revolutionary. I finally drank. The rye burned, but I didn't wince. It felt appropriate. She said she was building influence, relevance, I said. But influence without roots collapses the second the algorithm shifts. Charles nodded. She's gambling. And you know how long hype lasts in this business. Long enough to get people fired, I muttered. He leaned forward. I didn't vote to remove you, but I didn't fight hard either. I figured you'd land on your feet. You always do. I stared at the ring left by my glass on the table. That's the thing about falling from high places. Even if you land on your feet, you still feel the break. He smirked. Then maybe it's time to rebuild. I left that bar with 2 things, a quiet fury and a folder of internal analytics. Charles accidentally dropped in my coat pocket. I spent the next 2 nights reading every slide, every chart, every smug trend line. Tessa's strategy was pure spectacle. Viral peaks, no plateaus, flash, but no depth, no retention model, no loyalty strategy. Everything depended on perpetual attention, a treadmill with no brakes. I stopped sleeping. Instead, I started remembering. 10 years ago, when Viraloop was nothing but a cramped office and borrowed servers, I started a shell LLC, Signal North. It was supposed to be a side consulting brand, just in case the ship ever sank. I hadn't touched it in years, but the bank account was still open, the name still registered, and I still had the blueprints for everything Tessa thought she'd killed. I made a few calls. Zoe, Derek, Martin. All of them were in various stages of burnout. All of them had stories, team leads being replaced with interns, mentorship programs canceled, strategy teams sliced in half. One by one, they asked the same question. What are we building next? The answer was still forming in my head, but I knew this. We weren't going to chase trends. We were going to outlast them. I needed a new weapon, someone who understood this generation, not just from a marketing deck, but from inside. That's when I found Zara. She was 24, graduated top of her class in digital media theory, built a micro-agency that flipped obscure creators into six-figure earners using nothing but smart branding and chaos math. She didn't post inspirational quotes. She didn't worship hustle culture. She just understood how attention moved and how to ride it without losing your soul. She walked into our first meeting with green nails and a laptop covered in stickers. "I don't fake hype," she said. "I build gravity." I hired her on the spot. Together, we mapped out the next phase. Not a startup, a signal fire, something other people could rally around. We wouldn't just compete with VeraLoop, we'd ghost them. Show up in the spaces they abandoned, offer the structure they dismantled. We called the project Sparkwell. I know, sounds like a productivity app. But behind that soft name was a razor. Zara laid the groundwork. I started reaching out to clients we'd helped in the past. Slowly, quietly. I didn't need everyone, just the ones who remembered why we worked the way we did. By week 3, we had 6 former teammates, 2 key clients, and a growing playbook. And then, the leak. It came from a former intern, a copy of an internal memo, sloppy but authentic. "The long-form division will be dissolved next quarter. Legacy formats are dead. We're not a museum." It was signed by Tessa. I read it 3 times. She wasn't just cutting me out of the company. She was erasing everything we built. No department, no team, no trace. Except she'd missed one thing. We were still alive, watching, working, growing. And now, we weren't just building a response. We were building revenge. The first day we opened the doors to Sparkwell's new media lab, there were no cameras, no ribbon cutting, no glossy Instagram reels. Just a converted warehouse on the edge of the arts district, echoing with fresh paint and second-hand desks. The hum of something beginning, something precise. Charles had delivered on his promise. Quiet funding, no questions asked. He didn't want his name tied to it yet, optics, politics, whatever. But he wired the seed money, no hesitation. Said it was the most fun he'd had since the last corporate mutiny. We called the space the Vault. Part studio, part lab, part bunker. It felt like a sanctuary for people who'd been told they didn't belong in the future. By the end of the first week, we had 3 full-time staff, then 5, then 8. They came quietly, one by one. Former VeraLoop creatives, analysts, editors. Some resigned. Most were restructured out. All of them came carrying the same look. Exhausted, angry, but still burning inside. We didn't make announcements. No LinkedIn posts with humble brags. No excited to start a new chapter captions. Just whispered updates passed through Slack DMs and coffee meetups. I watched as the infrastructure she thought she'd demolished reassembled itself. Smarter, leaner, more loyal than ever. I stayed in the background, mostly. Let Zara take lead on public-facing concepts. Let the team breathe. But I had my own project. I resurrected an old Twitter handle from my consulting days. At the quiet build. No bio, no name, just threads. Breakdowns on platform fatigue. Long-form's inevitable return. Data-backed forecasts on retention curves. Not predictions, warnings. I didn't mention VeraLoop, but anyone in the industry knew exactly who I was talking about. The posts went viral. LinkedIn reposts, screenshots shared in group chats, invitations to speak, all politely declined. It became our ghost campaign. Quiet revenge, wrapped in thought leadership. Meanwhile, inside the company I used to serve like a religion, Tessa was unraveling. Her vision, if you could call it that, was a machine made of trend cycles and algorithm-chasing interns. She cut strategy roles completely, budgeted more for influencer brunches than for retention analytics. Our sources told us people were burning out within weeks. Content interns were producing 12 pieces a day, most of which tanked within hours of posting. I watched from afar as the thing she'd hijacked began to buckle under its own weight. Zara, as always, read the moment before I did. "What if," she said one night, curled on a beanbag under string lights in the vault, "we built a better version of Viraloop?" "You mean another agency?" I asked. I mean what it should have been. A platform, a system, less viral stunts, more lasting impact. We don't have to fix what she's breaking. We just have to make people miss what she destroyed. I leaned back in my chair, the idea catching fire. "You mean, let her burn the ship," I said, "while we sail the blueprint?" She grinned. "Exactly." It wasn't revenge. Not really. It was evolution. We dusted off an old prototype I had archived, a platform we'd once pitched internally, but shelved after budget cuts. It was designed to help mid-tier creators and brands collaborate seamlessly. Long-form meets commerce, meets data, meets soul. It was called Mosaic. Back then, we'd gotten close to launch, but Tessa shut it down when she came in. Said it was too legacy, too niche. She preferred TikTok partnerships with choreographed dances and glib voiceovers. Now, Mosaic became our rally point. We stripped it down, rebuilt the back end, added a creator dashboard and client-side AI tools that predicted engagement arcs based on storytelling rhythm. Zara redesigned the UI in 48 hours. It looked like the future without shouting about it. The team worked like they were starving. But not for paychecks, for purpose, for redemption. We launched Mosaic under a new LLC, unconnected, untraceable. No fanfare, no press release. Just a few strategic invites, one thread from at the quiet build, and a midnight upload. And then, it happened. Within 48 hours, 2 creators with followings over 1 million signed up and posted a collab project using Mosaic. They tagged it. People noticed. By day 3, it trended on Product Hunt. Agencies started reaching out. VCs sniffed around. By day 5, someone from Viraloop's own sales team inquired anonymously about the back-end tech. We didn't respond. Instead, we kept building. Because Mosaic wasn't just a product. It was a message. You can fire a man. You can erase his title, remove his desk, delete his credentials. But if you taught the architecture, if you mentored the engineers, if you were the blueprint, you're never really gone. You're just reloading. The earnings call was brutal. I didn't watch it live. There's a particular dignity in letting your enemies hang themselves without your applause. But I read the transcript the moment it hit the wire. Q3 numbers down 41%. Retention halved. User engagement below industry baseline. The phrase strategic recalibration was used like a prayer. But you can't pray a corpse back to life. The board scrambled. Analysts speculated. And investors, well, investors don't care about hype when the returns dry up. They started asking the only question that mattered. What happened to the long-form division? Tessa tried to spin it. On record, she blamed legacy staff. Outdated systems, low agility, misaligned creative culture. Off record, she hinted that old leadership had left behind a bloated team with no foresight. She used the word deadweight. I might have laughed if it wasn't so obvious she was drowning. Then someone leaked the screenshots. Internal Slack messages, flagged reports, strategy emails she'd ignored. One from her own head of data, warning that viral metrics were masking a deeper decay in loyalty and conversion. She hadn't just cut the old team, she'd cut the oxygen. The leak spread fast. Industry blogs picked it up. Then Twitter. Then a think piece in Adweek titled, "When the Algorithm Betrays You, the Fall of Viraloop's Viral Queen." By the end of the week, 3 of their highest-earning clients had quietly exited. And that's when Mosaic hit the front page. It started with a review in Fast Company calling us the blueprint Gen Z brands are now following. They didn't mention me by name, but the fingerprints were unmistakable. Long-form strategy meets creator-first commerce, with audience trust at its core, a system built not to trend, but to stay. Zara framed the article and hung it in the vault's hallway, just past the server room. It was a few days later when the panel invite landed in my inbox. Future-proof, building real value in digital media. Live-streamed, moderated, featuring voices that changed the landscape. I almost declined. Almost. But then I saw the attendee list, and there it was. Viraloop, corporate partner. Tessa listed as special guest advisor. I accepted. The stage was minimalist. Spotlights, chairs, water bottles placed at perfect angles. I wore gray, neutral, understated. I let the other panelists talk about disruption, attention economies, viral lifespans. Then the moderator turned to me. Ethan, you've had a unique few months. Sparkwell and Mosaic are being hailed as the quiet revolution. What did the old guard get wrong? I didn't blink. If you fire the foundation, I said, voice level, and expect the roof to float, you'll end up in ruins. The crowd stilled. I didn't elaborate. I didn't need to. Somewhere, probably backstage or in a glass-walled office, Tessa was watching that live stream. I hope she paused. I hope, for just a second, she realized what she'd broken couldn't be replaced with filters and virality decks. After the panel, Zara posted the quote with a thread. No names, no direct callouts, just a detailed breakdown of how we rebuilt our team. Diverse, creator-literate, strategic first. How we focused on community-led metrics over hollow impressions. How loyalty wasn't something you chased. It was something you earned. The thread went viral in 4 hours. By morning, 3 former Viraloop employees had quote-tweeted it with the phrase, "This is what leadership looks like." By the end of the week, a dozen more had quit. Some publicly, some silently. Some sent me private thank yous I didn't reply to. I wasn't their savior. I was just the guy who didn't leave when the lights went out. Tessa's name began to rot in real time. Comments on her old posts turned bitter. This aged well became a favorite. Her weekly Instagram Q&As dried up. An insider told me her own marketing team started leaving. Not for better salaries, for better air. And then, on a quiet Thursday morning, my phone buzzed. A name I hadn't seen in months. Board contact E. Saunders. The message was short. Let's talk. We're open to an offer. Not an apology, not a reunion, an acquisition. I stared at it for a long time. Because here's the thing they never tell you about vindication. It doesn't arrive with fireworks. No epic music plays, no confetti drops. It comes like frost on a window. Slow, inevitable, cold. But in that moment, it didn't matter how silent it was. Because I'd won. The same hallway, the same smell, coffee, printer toner, and faint desperation. Funny how a building can forget you so quickly. But I remembered everything. 3rd floor, east wing, corner office. It used to feel like command. Now, it felt like a ruin wearing good lighting. A junior associate met me in the lobby, clipboard clutched like a shield. No smile, no small talk, just a muttered, "They're waiting." Not we, not welcome back, just they. Fine by me. I stepped into the room. Same glass desk, same cold air, but the woman behind it wasn't the same. Tessa looked diminished, not broken, not destroyed, just smaller than I remembered. Her hair was tied back in a messy knot, eyes shadowed with sleepless nights. There was no assistant outside her door, no staff buzzing around, no curated music playing over the speaker system. The confidence was gone. What was left was management. She didn't stand, didn't offer a handshake, just gestured to the chair across from her. I took it without a word. The board was present. 2 members in person, 3 on the monitor. They tried to open with pleasantries. I ignored them. Instead, I reached into my briefcase, pulled out a folder. Thick, clean, no branding. I slid it across the table toward Tessa. She stared at it for a moment, then opened it. Inside, a fully executed acquisition agreement. I watched her read, slowly, carefully. She didn't flinch, but her knuckles tightened ever so slightly on the edges of the page. The silence hung just long enough. "I don't need a title," I said. "Just the blueprint you abandoned." No one spoke. Tessa finally looked up. Her eyes met mine for the first time. She didn't apologize. And I didn't gloat. There was no satisfaction in seeing her like this. No thrill in returning as the buyer instead of the employee. Just symmetry. I stood. "Have legal send confirmation by end of day," I said to the room, not to her. Then I walked out. Just like last time. Only this time, I didn't look back. 6 months later, Wired called us the Renaissance of responsible media. Sparkwell was no longer a whisper. Zara was officially listed as co-founder. She earned that title in every room she walked into, whether she was tearing apart a strategy deck or designing a creator campaign that hit 1 million views without a dollar spent on ads. The Vault became something more than a media lab. It was a refuge for talent tired of being wrung out and discarded. The same people they called obsolete were now leading keynotes, hosting masterclasses, mentoring the next wave. We didn't just recover what Tessa had burned. We improved it. We built pipelines for retention, ecosystems for storytelling that outlasted the trend cycle. Brands came to us not for flash, but for foundation. The irony. Half the creators Tessa once chased for clout were now signing exclusive deals with us. Not because we were louder, because we actually listened. One night, well past midnight, Zara knocked on my office door. She held her phone up. "You should post this," she said. I looked. A 28-second vertical video, cut tight, clean captions. I watched myself on screen. First line, "They said I was obsolete." Then footage rolled, slow motion clips from inside the vault, laughing faces, drafting boards, story walls covered in ideas. And finally, the last line. Turns out, they were just short-sighted. I raised an eyebrow. "Yours?" She nodded. "Shot it over the last few months. I didn't want to ask until it felt right." I watched it again, and this time I smiled. I posted it to our account, just once. No hashtags, no boost. By morning, it had 1.2 million views. By evening, it was stitched by a dozen creators thanking us for making the kind of space they didn't think still existed. And that was it. I didn't need a content series. I didn't need a follow-up video. One message, one post. The rest spoke for itself. They'll write articles about Tessa. They always do. Post-mortems about hubris and overreach. Think pieces about algorithm worship and the myth of relevance. But that's not the story I'll tell. Because this was never about revenge. I didn't need her to fall to feel whole. What I needed, what we built, was proof that you can lead without trending, mentor without ego, and innovate without erasing everything that came before. They called me obsolete. But I built something better than revenge. I built something better than permission.